Regular, oh, excuse me.
Sorry.
I'd like to welcome all of you to the Village of Kraus Governing Body Regular Meeting, July 9th, 2024. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please turn your phones off or set them on vibrate. Counselors, please set your microphones so you actually speak into them. And audience, please refrain from conversations while discussions are going on. If you want to talk, you can go out in the foyer there and you can still hear what's going on. If something comes up that you need to be involved in, just come on back in. Okay, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Counselor Miera.
Here, sir.
Counselor Woolman.
Here.
Counselor Knight.
Here.
Counselor Brooke.
Here.
Counselor Murray.
Here.
And also Brooke is somewhere.
Here, mommy,
Melanie.
I love you.
Oh, thank you.
Well, thank
So I guess at this point, we need approval of the agenda, please. I need a motion to approve the agenda
So moved.
and a
I'll
second.
second.
And we have a motion and a second. That was very good, guys. You got real close to your microphones. Thank you. First thing on our actual work is the administrator's report.
We didn't.
Did we vote?
No.
Did I not vote? Oh, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's really tough. Okay.
All right, Tanya, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, Administrator Curry. With this being the first thing up, let me get right into COVID. We're going to start with wastewater data. Wastewater data in New Mexico is still going up. There are a few sites that are going down. One of those sites is the Santa Fe site that peaked around the 18th of June, but it's now on its way down. As far as the CDC for national numbers is going, positivity throughout the nation is now at 9%, which is an increase, and emergency departments have increased by 18%. To 1% of all cases going in are COVID to the emergency room. Hospitalizations has increased by 13.3% from June 9th to June 15th. And that is at 1.7 per 100,000 population. Deaths are going down, but that ebbs and flows, as we all know, with COVID cases. It's a late indicator. New Mexico's COVID cases are still going up. I'm sure most people know someone right now who has COVID. Right now, we are running 32 cases per 100,000 ending June 27th. I expect there to be more after the 4th of July holiday. It was hot, so people were inside. Positivity in New Mexico is, for test positivity, is at 15.2%. No more new cases of measles in New Mexico have been reported. We have had one other case of bird flu in the United States that reported. So that's a total of 4 people with reported confirmed bird flu. That was also another cattle worker. The new vaccine should be out September or October. And that is really all I have right now, unless anyone has questions.
Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you.
Last week I gave you all, or 2 weeks ago, I gave you all an update on the Inspection of Public Records Act, or more lovingly known as IPRA. And lovingly known as IPRA. And so I just want to let you know that I think when I reported it to you 2 weeks ago, it was at 159 IPRA requests that we've had this year. We are now up to 171. And there's going to be a review of this legislation as we come into the next legislative session, we've been told. And it's particularly traumatic on small villages like us, because there is no way that we can have any cost recovery for the time that's spent on it. The village in the past has, I would say in the past 5 years, early on in my tenure that we were here, we expended over $50,000 paying off IPRA requests that were delayed or somehow lost. And I'm going to turn this over to Melanie to give you a little more detail on it. But from an administrative point of view, it's something that we have to do by law, and we will continue to do it because the public has a right to know what we're doing and how we're doing it. But what becomes frustrating every now and then is when you have villagers or residents who knowingly have the information already or can access it, and they choose to go through the IPRA process anyway, just for the sake of going through the process. It still costs money. It still takes time from Melanie. And at one time, as she will explain here in a second, a period of time yesterday, we had 4 people working on IPRA request in the village of Corrales. And so that average is well over $200 an hour that we're spending on it. City of Albuquerque has an entire department that works on it. And like I mentioned to you before at the last meeting, it is by law. And even though we're a small village, we still operate under the same laws as the rest of the communities in the state of New Mexico. Melanie, you want to explain further?
So the main thing about the IPRA laws is the request comes in, you have 3 days to respond. If it's going to take you longer than that 3 days, you are allowed to send a letter saying you need 15 days to respond. So when I get a request that involves body cam footage, the one I am currently working on was a request from a law firm. They need all of the video footage from the murder that happened in January. There's over 100 videos associated with that request. Each one of those videos averages 30 minutes. So it takes me at least 30 minutes per video just to watch it. And then if I have to stop and redact it, it adds time onto it. So in the last 2 weeks, I've spent over 60 hours just working on IPRA, and then still doing all of my regular jobs like getting your packet ready, writing resolutions, working on ordinances, answering villagers' questions, running meetings. So it does take a lot of time. And like Ron said, yesterday morning, excuse me, we had a resident come in and submit an IPRA request in person. And since I was already working on redacting video footage, Sky said, I'll work on this one. And that one required the help of our court administrator to pull the records. And at that same time, Charlotte, our police clerk, had somebody at her window and she was filing an IPRA request. So within a 20-minute period, we had, as Ron said, 4 staff members working on an IPRA, 3 different IPRAs, but we were all working on them. So, and the thing with IPRA is it's not a consistent thing. You can't say, oh, I'm going to work on IPRAs tomorrow because I'm going to get some requests. And they seem to come in groups. So this most recent batch, I got 7 in a row that had video footage associated with them between April 20th and the end of June. So I'd finished one and then I had to jump right into the next one, into the next one, into the next one. We had 10 requests that involved video footage, all of 2023. In 2022, we had, I believe, 7. In 21, there were 3. Or no, I'm sorry, it was 2 in 21 and 3 in 2020. So we've seen those numbers dramatically increasing for body cam footage. So, but I would like to state that we have not had any IPRA violations since Aaron took over as clerk before me, and then since I have been here. So we managed to turn most of our IPRA requests around within a day, but the ones that involve video footage do take a little bit longer.
Mayor.
Oh, yes, Bill.
Ron, have we seen a pattern as to the type of request and any reason why there's such an increase at this point?
Well, like Melanie said, most of the requests have come from badge cameras that we have to do. But they're an example that she gave to me is that if there's an officer that is on a scene and he's talking to a particular individual, and then he's getting a radio call from somebody else, and at the same time he's taking the driver's license number of the person he's dealing with, that has to go back in and be redacted out so that the
Mhm.
person's driver's license number doesn't go out
Right.
to the public. So most of them fall into that area. You know, we've had a couple of murders, and it's becoming a situation where, speaking editorially, Corrales has changed a little bit, you know, and as has the entire society. And I asked the question today at the staff meeting, do we have any frequent flyers who come in just one after, you know, just
Yeah.
almost in the form of harassment?
Yeah.
You know, because they don't like government or they don't like a particular thing. And we really don't have that. We've had several law firms in Albuquerque that are working on one thing or another, which is their right to do. But what concerns us is when we go through the exercise, and this has happened several times with Melanie, where we go through the exercise of taking the time to gather up the information by law that we have to respond to, and then we have it available for them and they don't show up. Or they cancel. Or they already have the information and they're making us go through the exercise just for the sake of us going through the exercise. That's what's problematic.
Are there, so most of them at this point are crime related, would you say? Whether it's a motor vehicle or
A crime being an accident or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
I would say that would be the case.
Yeah, I'd say 90% are requesting a police report in some form or another. So we get a lot for somebody who's lost their driver's license. In order to get a new driver's license from the DMV, they have to have a police report. So, you know, you get somebody coming in for that. People that have been,
but would that necessarily have to be an IPRA request, or can you just go to the police department and say, I need a police report?
so any report or any public document, we ask them to fill out an IPRA request so that we can have a record that we did indeed fulfill this request for somebody. So yes, they still have to go, and now they go to Charlotte, our police clerk, and they can go to her window. She has them fill out the form or she helps them fill it out. And then she provides the document. I mean, I think there's times where Charlotte has an IPRA done in 5 minutes. She's amazing. And like I said, I counted on we keep a spreadsheet of all of the requests that have come in for this year. And I'd say 90% of them are people that just need a police report for insurance purposes. So.
Randy?
Mayor and councilors, one of the things that happened was a few years ago when there was a lot of emphasis on use of force by police officers. We passed the New Mexico Civil Rights Act, which made a claim available for damages on any violation of any part of the Bill of Rights of the New Mexico Constitution, essentially. And instead of just focusing on the issues of police officers, they gave a right of action for any violation of the Constitution, essentially, to someone for damages of up to $2 million against any government. As part of that, they required the retention of all videos from any use of force, irregardless of whether or not it was actually there at the time that the force was being used. So if you've got an incident where there's someone blocked in their house and you've got 15 or 20 or 30 officers present, each one is running their video during the entire period because it's required under the law. And they can be sitting in their cruiser eating a sandwich during the event and talking to their wife on the phone or doing whatever else because they're not actively engaged, but there's video of it. All of that has to be reviewed in order to respond to the IPRA. And then when the lawsuit gets filed, our office has to review all of that as well. It's causing an extraordinary amount of attorney's fees being paid by local government insurers. And it is our modern world, but it seems like there ought to be a little bit more efficient way to deal with it. But
Randy, we've talked, the issue's been raised before, but the possibility that Councilor Alsterbrook raised this about the possibility of getting someone, perhaps a retired paralegal or someone else other than our clerk's office to take a look at those and maybe relieve some of the burden on, is that legally possible?
Well, it's legally possible, but it's highly difficult to incorporate into your system. Our paralegals were reviewing for Melanie when she has an overload, and they do it all the time, and they know how to do it. They know what to redact and how to redact. I mean, it is possible to hire somebody else on contract that had that skill set
Mhm.
if it's available and if demand requires it.
Okay.
Stuart.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. So, Ron, do you have any idea what the legislature is thinking about doing to redress this?
No, I've just heard maybes, proposals, you know, because it's, and I think Randy would agree with this, it's a rock and a hard place situation where we want to get information out as people need it so that they feel like they know what's going on. On the other hand, if somebody requests an IPRA from us through Melanie, and Melanie spends, 6 hours on it and puts it all on a thumb drive and hands it to the person, they hand us back $10. And which obviously doesn't come close to making up for her time spent, not to mention her time taken away from her normal duties. So it's a cost of doing business, I guess, in government today. But what we are concerned with is not trying to hide things, but for people who try to take advantage of the system. We have a situation going on right now where there's been an IPRA request that has been made to us. Melanie has responded, and she has no confirmation that the person has received that. The village lost several thousands of dollars, probably 4 or 5 years back, where the person who requested the IPRA claimed they never received it. And so they were able to go to the court and say that we had been derelict in our duties and wanted $100 a day, which is prescribed by law for not responding by IPRA. So even though we may have responded or not, they said that they didn't get the response. And so they collected several thousands of dollars at the rate of $100 a day. And then the other example is, like I said, is when you have people come in and who ask for an IPRA on information that they already have, but they just make us go through the exercise. And oftentimes these people are villagers. Oftentimes I think Melanie's had some requests from, eastern part of the country,
Yeah.
And so you become more suspicious of those, that they might be frequent flyers that are just trying to come in and take advantage of the system.
Councilor Mira.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Woodman, I was talking just yesterday about this with maybe some solutions. And unfortunately, you bring up a good point about having somebody available, but the problem is, as you stated real quickly, but they come in these shifts. So they come in on Monday, they might get 5, and then they don't have anything until Thursday. It's kind of hard to hire somebody, say, okay, on Thursday, you're on, and then maybe we're gonna get another one. We got 10 on next Tuesday. And so the ability to hire that person to do that job is going to be real sporadic at best. And so we're looking at that.
Perhaps you could do it on a contract basis and as needed basis.
Yeah,
So,
that's
and if
what
you
I'm
have,
saying.
you say you have 3 days to respond.
Three days, and then we can send a
So somebody
15-day
don't
letter.
call.
Yeah.
At 3 business days. Comes in on a
Yes.
Friday, you don't have to respond.
Yeah,
on
it's
Tuesday.
3 business days, but then 15 calendar days.
Okay.
So anyway, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to bring that up. Sure. That,
Yeah.
because I think it's a good point, but just personally, I used to carry the bill that all the time where we had reimbursed the county for taking somebody from the county jail over to the state penitentiary, because once the judge decided that that individual was necessarily gonna go to the state penitentiary. They become part of the state, but we are using our funds to take them up there and bring them back for court and then take them back up over again. So we kind of got a little bit better after this, and maybe the legislature might go this route. We start putting in a fund, and so we could detract from that fund to take that, to pay for that. But whether the legislature will go that route, I don't know. But I think this is becoming very, very, very expensive. So they've got to figure a way out of that one. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes. Anyone else? Okay. Fire away.
Okay, the last thing I just want to mention in the local government investment pool, we're still garnering about $17,500 a month in interest. We're up to we're just short of $4 million at this point. So, and we continue to spend cash when possible rather than taking down the fund so that we can continue to collect that interest rates as long as interest rates stay high. So that's the good news and the bad news of interest rates. That's it, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. So Ron, I have a question I need to ask you about parking because over on Metal Arc, it's getting to be obvious that off-street parking is getting to be an issue with a certain business. And I'm just wondering, since it already describes that you have to have a site plan, you have to have parking, and you have to prescribe the number of parking spaces that you need, maybe we need to start looking at citing folks who are parking on the roadway outside the business, because it is impacting some of the people who are living over there. They had a couple instances where cars are parking right in front of the driveway and the person couldn't get out. So can we have our police department swing by there maybe sometime 2 or 3 times a week? And if they see parking that is illegal, we need to start citing folks for parking there.
Yeah, I think the particular case you have in mind there, the police officers did go by and kind of got it straightened out. So they're aware of some of those areas that are going on, and they're trying to make it clear definitively as where they can park and can't park.
Well, I was by
Excellent.
yesterday and I noticed a couple of cars that were right off the roadway there on Metal Arc, outside the business area. So it's getting to be a real issue over there, and I think it's a safety issue as well.
So when you were over there, is there signage over there about no parking on the side of the road?
There's not, I don't think so. Not that
Well,
I'm
we
aware of.
We might be able to do something.
Yeah, like Snow will put up some signs. You know.
They didn't pay attention to.
Well, for a while they didn't.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's the downside.
Yeah.
You know. Okay. Nobody else? All right. So we'll move on to Corleone's Forum. This section is for informational purposes only, not for discussion or debate, to inform the the governing body of an issue or concern that would not be addressed on the agenda during the business session. There is a 3-minute time limit, and you have a list.
I sure do. Up
Okay.
first is Kurt Scribner. If you can come to the podium and state your name and address, you will have 3 minutes.
Name is Kurt Scribner. I live at 272 Angus Lane. I want to make a quick comment on the possible amendment to section 1428 exemptions from regulations, specifically the addition of paragraph 10, which states noise resulting from a sound amplifier or device for the production or reproduction of sound located on the premises of a commercial establishment within the commercial zone only shall be exempted from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. Sunday through Thursday and 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Friday and Saturday. I don't believe that such a blanket exemption to noise in the business area is in the best interests of the Corleones. The residential areas are very close to commercial areas in this small village, and I believe this would not be a nice thing to do to those who live close to the commercial zone. Additionally, section 14-29 of the regulations already has a permit that people can apply to the village for to get an exemption from regulations. So I don't believe that this is necessary nor desirable. Thank you.
So anyone else who wants to speak about something that's on the agenda should wait till that item comes up. The Corleone's Forum is basically for those things that aren't on the agenda, that aren't up for discussion, that you would like to present to the governing body, as I said. Next.
Fred Hashimoto. Fred, if you'll come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening. I'm Fred Hashimoto. I live at 485 East La Entrada. Mr. Mayor, councilors. Tonight, I am speaking for us all. Who are we? Well, if you didn't see it, some of us had a float in the 4th of July parade last weekend. I'll send you a picture. For the next council meeting in 2 weeks, an agenda item is listed as, quote, approval of Main Street's Arts and Cultural District Plan, unquote. The general public has seen nothing of this plan, which can significantly impact the village and its residents. If the plan is to be voted on for approval in 2 weeks, that means that the plan will be available to the general public and governing body in the council packet on Friday, the 20th, only a few short days before the meeting to approve. We learned yesterday that the plan document is 86 pages in length. For the public and council to see, read, and ponder it over several days or even several weeks before council is scheduled to approve is totally inappropriate. The mayor and perhaps some council members who have personal contacts with Main Street could have had privy to and input into the plan, but the general public is clueless about it. Although they were asked, Main Street will not hold open meetings. They say we're non-profit and we don't have to hold open meetings. So much communication. The Main Street free pizza this party several weeks ago was chaotic. No presentation occurred. Displaying hundreds of items on 5 sheets of paper spread on tables was confusing at best. The public was explicitly told that no vocal input or interactions could be allowed then, period. Obviously, the devil lurks in details, and 86 pages with detail are not easy to read, digest, and analyze. That this ACD plan needs to be approved quickly seems reminiscent of the recent push for a performing arts center /MUF. Whoa, let's slow this process down and give it some time and thought from outside of just Main Street and a few others. We ask council to postpone any decision to approve such a wide-ranging plan that will affect many of us. Perhaps the July 23rd meeting, the next, could be used to introduce the plan, and then later meetings used for discussion and public input of it, and then, if needed, a later meeting used for possible approval of it. Transparency, fairness, notice, and consideration of the public are all issues here. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred.
Next is Teresa Lopez. If you could please state your name and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes.
Teresa Lopez, Rupert's Lane, Corrales. I'm from a descendant family, as most of you know. In the 70 years that I've lived here, I've always felt the care and compassion from my family, friends, and neighbors in this village, sharing tools and farm implements or just giving a helping hand. If someone was hurt or sick, we would offer help with food and tending to whatever their needs were. This is what was passed on from generation to generation. This is how we've always lived in Corrales, with empathy, love, and care and respect for other people, no matter if we actually knew them or not. I wonder now, have some people in Corrales lost the value of human kindness and respect? I'm very saddened by the lack of empathy, concern from many in this room on June 25th, 2024, during the council meeting. With a video from May 9th, Sandia Bar security camera was shown in council chambers on Zoom and is now available to all the public on YouTube Corrales meetings. This video showed a gentleman that was involved in a road rage incident that was brought into the village from Alameda and Corrales Road to his area of employment parking lot. It goes on to show him getting hit straight on by a car, landing on the roof of the top of the car, then getting thrown off to the pavement. Next, he stands up in a cloud of dust, walking, most certainly with a big adrenaline rush and shock, back across the road. Does anyone in this room actually know for sure that he's okay? This video was presented in voice to the public as a fun video to share, and then at the end of it stated as the most entertaining video I've had the privilege to view while doing these IPRA requests. My next question, is this has happened to a dog? Would you all still be clapping and saying great production, and laughing? How about if it was your father, son, brother, or anyone else that you know, and would you still think that it's a fun and most entertaining video to watch? These are not my words, nor do I believe that they were the actual victim's words. They were someone else's that voiced the video shown on June 25th council meeting. I ask everyone in this room and on Zoom that saw the video shown on June 25th, was it a good example of our Corrales values, empathy, and concern? This is not the way our village was or should be, but now it seems to be becoming less and less empathetic, respectful, which is a metropolitan mentality. After seeing the June 25th council meeting on Venue, many people will wonder about my last question, which is the village of Corrales with honesty, to honestly keep saying that Corrales is the safest place to live, as was stated right before the video started. With all the outside dangerous traffic coming in, it will no longer be what all of you came to live here for. It is becoming a regional / metropolitan destination, which is what we Correreños don't want to happen to the village. And I'll leave you with one of my favorite quotes. It's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Lopez.
And our last speaker this evening is Mr. Sam Metler. If you'll come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes.
Samuel I. Metler, 42 Mountain Shadows Road, Corrales. As she just spoke about road rage yesterday, I had to deal with it. And my truck ended up in someone's front yard due to an outsider, and we're fixing his yard and stuff. I questioned the need to do a traffic study on La Entrada, but now speed bumps don't help. I'm not sure exactly how to articulate it better, but and I'm not waiting for an insurance company to fix the problem. We're fixing it via our company, replacing his fence, replacing his yard, and taking care of the stuff. But it's just got to get taken care of. And the Corrales Police Department did a phenomenal job. Just absolutely outstanding with the pictures, documentation, everything. So pluses, minuses, 100%. So we just have to move forward and understand everything that's going on and work well, together. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Metler.
That's it.
Okay. So now we'll move to Councilors Forum. This section is for informational purposes only, not for discussion or debate. To inform the governing body of an issue or concern that would not be addressed on the agenda during the business session. Councilor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. So last meeting, we talked about a traffic study or calming study. And I think we said it would probably be due in 2 weeks. I'm just wondering, is it going to be on the agenda for next time, or are we close, or where are we at?
We're close. We're close, Counselor. We're getting late today. We got a draft report in that I have not reviewed yet.
Okay, so the other thing is also mentioned the Interstate Stream is having, let me back up. Interstate Stream Commission is having an open house on August 7th. It's going to be at the UNM, what was it, Department of Education or what's the other one? I'm sorry?
Continuing education.
Yeah. So anyway,
It's on my phone.
I urge anybody that has an interest in water rights, we probably ought to go make your issues known for the Interstate Stream Commission. They've been holding these meetings all through the month at various regions where they've divvied up the state. So I urge you to get out there and let them know how you feel about it, because I just saw last night that MRGCD has gotten a letter about we're not delivering enough water down to Texas, and they may have to, do some things that we're not going to like in the near future. The other thing I wanted to comment too, and I think we ought to do this, Mayor, this is just a suggestion for our administration. We need to do some cloud storage for our administrators and our clerks. We need to have something where if we have large files, like I heard that we had an 86-page arts and cultural plan coming up, we needed to put that somewhere up on a cloud storage, and then we don't have to worry about getting it through the email. We can download that as necessary. That's all I have. Thank you.
You take a note, Melanie?
Yes.
Okay.
Mayor?
Oh, sorry. Counselor Knight.
Yeah, I just wanted to say kudos to all the people who participated in and who worked on the 4th of July parade. It was a successful as usual, and everything worked really well, I think. I didn't go in the parade this year. I wanted to be a standby participant, and it was great.
There were a lot of people.
Mayor, can I ask Councilor Murray, just a point of clarification on the Interstate Stream Commission meeting? Is it continuing education?
Yeah, continuing to educate. That's what I was trying to
University, I
think
think it's like 1600 block University Boulevard.
of. Right.
Yep.
That's on their website. They do have it posted now. So if you go to the Interstate Stream Commission website, you can see with various meetings.
You know what time?
It's an open house from 3 to 7 p.m.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Yeah. Anybody else? Okay. We'll move to the consent agenda. Did you have something to say?
No, I'm just.
So we have the approval of the minutes of June 25th, 2024 regular council meeting and approval of resolution 24-39, which is a year-end bar. This is basically taking all the money that has come in that was not, the revenue that has come in that was not really anticipated, and distributing over a number of funds. No money is being spent. Money is being banked. I need a motion to approve the agenda, or if someone wants to pull something off the agenda, please let us know.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Anything you want to pull off? Counselor Murray, how do you vote?
Yes.
Counselor Woolman?
Aye.
Counselor Knight?
Aye.
Counselor Burkett?
Aye.
Counselor Murray?
Yes.
All right, so that's new business. Consideration action approval of ordinance 24-09, amending Village Code Chapter 10, Article 2 relating to business registration and licensing. Need a motion to approve ordinance 24-09
So moved.
and a second.
Second.
And a second. Any discussion? Is anybody signed up to speak?
Yes, we do have one speaker, Mike McKinstry.
Okay. Mr. McKinstry.
If you could state your name and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
My name is Mike McKinstry and I'm at 5335 Corrales Road. I'm coming to you in concern with this ordinance. I am a retired firefighter with Albuquerque Fire Department, was 20 years with them paid. I left in good standing. And my concern is having a fire inspection for a business occupation, not for the commercial side, but for the business, for the home-based occupation. In 20 years of my service, I never once went to a home-based occupation and did a fire inspection. I did commercial, but never fire, never a business. And we did not charge a fee for the inspection to the businesses. We did not hold their license in as a hostage until they had their fire inspection. We also followed the UFC, the IFC, and the NFPA standards. So I'm here this evening to ask a few questions that I have asked from the mayor, the village clerk, front desk secretary, code enforcement, fire chief, as what are the ordinances that we are trying to implement and enforce that require home occupation business to have a fire inspection in order to renew a business license. The only answer I get is the pursuant of the procedures established by the village clerk and published on the village webpage, which I interpret as what is posted as an ordinance and resolution posted on the website. That is what we don't follow, not to ad-lib what you want to put on the website. What are the requirements that have been adopted in the past as an ordinance by the governing body that require a home-based occupation license that relates to any of the IFC, UFC, or NFPA standard that is equivalent to home-based occupation businesses? What UFC, NFPA, or IFC standards has the board posted and adopted and put into ordinances? What year, if any, of these regulations have been adopted as a fire code as the village adopted in what year? What fire code in the UFC, NFPA, and IFC are being identified for home-based occupation that is being followed? What forms are available for business owners to view to prepare for fire inspections that are in accordance with any of these organizations and is adopted by the board? If a business license was acquired prior to this ordinance, are we grandfathered from this ordinance? If a fire inspection, is it a pass or fail? If so, what are the qualifications? Who is exempt and who isn't with the regulations? Does this mean that we are being treated as a commercial business, then we can ignore home occupation business requirements and operate as a commercial? The reason I'm asking these questions is you have an ordinance for how high you can build, how high your wall can be, how your setbacks on your buildings, you have it in place. You have these ordinances adopted and it's specified. The fire inspection is an open book.
Thank
for
you. That's your time.
administration.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. McKinstry.
Okay,
So no, you're not grandfathered in because it is an annual renewal.
well, when was it passed? When does it take effect?
So it's, Anthony, would you like to speak at all?
When is the ordinance?
So
So I-
it's an annual renewal. A fire inspection is required.
So when is the ordinance? If there's an ordinance in place, why are we renewing an ordinance tonight?
It's a resolution that has,
Okay,
that says you have to have a license to practice, not to practice, but to have a business. And you
and
have
what
to,
resolution is that?
it's the resolution we're passing now. We're renewing it and
This is an ordinance.
we're adding to it.
This is an ordinance. It's not a resolution. This is
Fire
an
chief, please help me here.
So on the renewal form for business registrations, for years, it's had a place for the fire department to sign off, planning and zoning to sign off, the clerk's office to sign off,
Yeah.
and the building inspector to sign off.
Mayor. Can I make a comment, Mayor?
Yes.
I was just looking on Albuquerque's website and as of July 1st, 2019, all businesses are charged a fee for fire inspection, including home-based businesses. It specifically says residential businesses are charged. It's based off of square footage. So it looks like they have the same policy as of July 1, 2019,
Okay.
where that's what they're doing now as well.
Councilor Murray.
Yeah, thank you.
I've
Chair.
actually
So-
spoke with fire marshal.
Councilor Murray.
Thank you. So, Mr. McKenzie, just one of the things that I'm observing and have
Okay.
observed from planning and zoning before,
Okay,
not all home ops are just businesses, I mean, office business. Some of them are businesses where they have flammable materials. And also there are, especially with home ops, you have to have safety because you have multiple bedrooms. You have to have access, you have to have egress. There are safety concerns with our businesses that we need to address, and that's where the fire department comes in and takes a look at them. So I appreciate your concerns about this, but
so
this
what fire
ordinance-
codes are you gonna follow is my question.
well, the fire chief follows the fire codes based on the international standards, I believe, and national standards. So it's not a penalty against the homeowner. It's to make sure that there is a safe place where that work's taking place. Because if you're doing welding or any kind of construction material on the site, in which there are home ops which do that, you need to make sure that all flammable materials are stored in the correct place. I mean, I worked at the labs and they were really strict about flammable materials. And we had to make sure.
You're talking commercial now. home-based
No, I'm not talking commercial. I'm talking home ops.
Okay,
Home ops, doesn't have to have a home business out here on Main Street. They can do their business at home and they've demonstrated that for the Planning and Zoning Commission. And that's why we have the fire department go out there and do an inspection. It's just to make sure that everything is safe and everybody is protected, especially your neighbors. You know, the way that things are right now with climate change, it takes a spark and we've got a raging fire going on. We don't need that, in the village. So I appreciate your concerns though.
so let me ask you this question. What is your fire department, what is
Mr.
the,
McKinstry, you're finished. You're through. You can sit down now. You've had your 3 minutes and we've had a discussion.
okay.
We
Thank
are
you.
focused on the public health, safety and welfare. And if you have something in your storeroom or garage that will explode, that it puts your neighbors at risk. And we need to be sure that you've done that appropriately. This is not a pass fail. If you have some issue, we'll address that issue and we'll work with you to make sure it's safe. We want you to stay in business. We want you to continue working. We don't want to shut you down. Okay? Who's next?
Oh, Mayor, I'm sorry, Mayor.
I didn't understand there was a deadline earlier today to speak.
Yeah, there's a sign up sheet at the door.
Am I allowed?
Sure.
Please state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Joe Wellborn, 32 Priestley Place. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, council members. Full disclosure, Mr. McKenzie is my car mechanic. And having lived in Corrales for 20 years, I understand how someone will invest in a business. At the time, Mr. McKenzie invested in a business, he met all the requirements. And at this point, and he's been doing this since 2012, if I'm correct. And, but recently something has changed. And he has not met there's a new fire inspection requirement, which I understand for the safety of Corrales, we all agree with. But he's not been informed of what he needs to do to mitigate or to remedy the lack of inspection. Like as I understand it, the fire inspector appeared and didn't give him specifically what he needed to do to remedy the requirements. And I think that's really important.
Yes.
We open up businesses. My wife has a business. It's not a, she runs a business out of her office, as do I. And we're applying for permits to make sure we can do this. Granted, Mr. McKenzie has an auto body shop, but I think it behooves all of us in Corrales, just for gross revenue tax, to have businesses, cultivate businesses in Corrales. And I would really encourage the council to please find a way to let Mr. McKenzie know what he needs to do to remedy the fire requirement so he can run a business and serve the people of Corrales.
That is the goal. It's
Yes,
an
sir.
educational, the fire inspection person, member of the fire department,
Yes, sir.
goes and inspects the place to see what deficiencies there may be or problems there may be, and then relay that information on to Mr. McKinstry so that he can correct those things. It's not to put him out of business.
I understand.
It's for public health, safety, and welfare.
Yes,
And
sir.
as far as, the focus is not on GRT or, making sure businesses can do things. It's to focus on our public health, safety, and welfare. We don't want to have an explosion in the village of Corrales. I doubt that will happen, but we have to have documentation that this has been done.
Can we help Mr. McKenzie?
We can help Mr. McKinstry because we have been trying to help Mr. McKinstry, and we explained
It's
that-
complicated. I understand.
well, many times it's complicated. Many times it's a perception issue. We perceive one thing and he perceives another. And that's unfortunate. That's all over. But that's what the plan is. That's what the goal is. That's what our desire is.
Yes, sir.
And by the way, I don't have them all memorized, so I can't quote you, document and number and page and all that stuff.
I
But
would love it if we could figure out a way to help Mr. McKenzie stay in business.
I think Mr. McKinstry can be helped if we can get a fire inspection, mitigate any problems, or maybe not.
He's a
Maybe he
former
doesn't have-
firefighter. I think we can.
Maybe he doesn't
do it.
have any problems.
We can do this.
Yes,
sir.
But you kind of wonder why somebody is so recalcitrant to have
Well,
their place inspected.
With respect, sir, he started his business in 2012 and there was a set of rules at the time and they've changed.
Oh, yeah.
And he's invested probably $100,000. You should see his wonderful business.
Yes,
He's invested a lot and we need to respect that and support him.
absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
yes.
Okay.
Next.
I would just like to point out to council that we made 2 small changes to the wording of the ordinance since it was brought before you the last time. One of them was, I believe 2 counselors had asked about if they are working from home, do they need a business license? So we changed the wording and it's in kind of a purpley blue font in your packet. So we added in the wording, engaging in business does not include working as an employee of another person or entity from a home office. So just to clarify that for council. And then there was one other issue that was brought to our attention regarding food trucks, and that we're still getting unlicensed food trucks coming into the village. And we would like to make sure that all of those food trucks, when they get their license, they're also getting a fire inspection. So we did add in that if a business brings in or allows a food truck to be on their property, they will be fined. The business will be fined $100 per day, and the food truck will be fined $100 per day.
Yes, Councilor Burke, yes.
Can I ask a question specific to the food trucks? If they can show us proof of a fire inspection from another local municipality, are we going to honor it or no? We're going to require.
No,
it like-
we like them to have a fire inspection from our fire
Okay.
department.
Yes, sir, Councilor. Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. So under the definition, I noticed that it was lifted basically from the state statute. And there's a comment at the very end of it says where a business exceeds $100,000 for licensing for reasons for unknown. Why does that mean that anything that's under $100,000 is not considered a business?
No. I don't,
That was specifically for out-of-state businesses.
Well, it's in our definitions.
Right, yeah, and I do believe it says, let me find it here. Okay, for a person who lacks physical presence in this state, including a marketplace provider, engaging in business means having in the previous calendar year total taxable gross receipts from sales, leases, and licenses of tangible property, sales of licenses, and sales of services and licenses for use, blah, 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 of at least $100,000. So that's just for somebody doing business, like Comcast. Comcast doesn't have a physical office here in the village, but they do have 3 or 5 business licenses with us. They have 3 separate business licenses with
Okay,
us.
and then the other part of it is under peddlers and solicitors, we do require them to have a business license.
Mhm.
I've had at least 2 instances in this past week where I've had people show up at my front door, and I'm sure they weren't wearing any lanyard or.
Yes, since this hasn't been passed yet, we haven't instituted the door-to-door sales permit, but that will go into effect when this ordinance goes into effect next week. And so anybody doing door-to-door sales, if they come to your place of business, anybody in the village, you can call our police department and they will go and see if they can track down that door-to-door salesperson and let them know they need to come to the village office, get a business license and a door-to-door vendor permit.
Okay, thank you.
And anybody that does not want door-to-door sales, please make sure you have your property marked with either a no trespassing sign or a no solicitation sign, as all door-to-door sales vendors will be directed to respect those signs.
Councilor Burkett.
Just a second follow-up question on this one where it says for a person who lacks physical presence in the state, should we change that to physical presence in the village?
I think, well, no, because I think that would mean, because we do get a lot of people that, from Rio Rancho or Albuquerque.
So the way I'm
do-
reading this, if someone was in the state or not in the state and did less than, or they were in the state and did less than 100,000, they wouldn't have to get one with us. Where like if somebody from Rio Rancho had a business where they generated over 100, but they are actually in the state, they're just not in the village. So it would
Yeah.
open it up to anyone outside the village that lives within the state would be exempt from it.
Randy, I feel like that might be something.
I think what happened was this was a definition from state law, and I would think it would be appropriate to say within the village. We'll do some more looking at it because it is designed to capture those folks to get their GRT from out of state cyber businesses, basically. And that is a little bit different here, but I think it would be best here to say outside of the village.
Okay.
So you want to, Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Mier.
So do you want to take a look at it, or do you want to propose an amendment to the?
I think one of you should propose an amendment to change that to village from state.
Counselor?
I will propose said amendment.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And a second? Any further discussion? How do you vote, Councilor Murray?
Yes.
Counselor Burkett,
Yes.
Counselor Knight,
Aye.
Counselor Woolman.
Aye.
Counselor Mira.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
That was just on the amendment, correct?
yes.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Any questions? Any other comments you want to make? How do you vote, Counselor Murray?
Yes.
Counselor Burkett?
Yes.
Counselor Knight?
Aye.
Counselor Woolman?
Aye.
Counselor Mira?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, if you have any other changes you want to make when it comes up at the next, when is it, August?
I'm sorry for,
Do we bring this up in August again?
nope, this is the
We're
final.
done now.
Yep.
Okay.
So this will go into effect by July
Oh,
15th.
that's right. It's a resolution. All right. I'm losing track on my sheet here. Okay, number 2, new business, consideration action and approval of ordinance 24-10, implementing an employee relations ordinance for the village of Corrales, enacting rules for hiring, promotion, discharge, and general regulation of village employees, and repealing and replacing chapter 28 personnel policy and all amendments thereto. This is the new ordinance that we're changing because we're establishing a resolution for the personnel policy. So I need a motion to approve ordinance 24-10.
So moved.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
So we have a motion to approve in a second. Anybody want to ask a question, make a comment? Counselor Murray?
Thank you, Mayor. So I think in the ordinance letter that we have under, I think it's applicability number 4. And it's number B. We list elected officials as being unclassified employees. I don't think that's in the manual. I think I mean, there is a section about elected officials, but we're not unclassified employees. And I think that's just in the, let's see, let me make sure. That was page 27, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
under B. I think we just need to strike the elected officials because there is a section already taking care of that.
Yes.
In which, a section where are you citing to?
Applicability, it's number 4.
Yeah, I'm
paragraph
saying
B.
B, but where else is it?
310.
Well, it's not in the manual. I didn't find it in the personnel
In
manual.
the policies?
Yes.
Well,
Well, it's official, yeah, in that paragraph, but it's under unclassified employees. You say elected officials are unclassified employees.
Well, in a sense you are, because you do receive.
Get a paycheck.
A small paycheck and a para benefit.
Okay.
So for that purpose, you're unclassified. For all other purposes, you're controlled by state law, and this doesn't apply to you. But for the fact, you still have to follow, for example, anti-harassment policies and so forth.
Okay,
But you're technically an employee of the village.
well, when I looked at the personnel manual, the new personnel manual that's following up to this ordinance, we're not listed as unclassified employees.
I understand, because none of the personnel manual applies to you except for the anti-harassment and so forth, because you are, only state law governs your employment.
Mayor. Counselor, I think the next section C specifically starts with elected officials. So I think we are listed there, but under a different category.
It's also, you're called elected officials
We're both.
and there are appointed officials, but the reason you're listed as employees is because you do receive pay and you are getting para benefits. I don't, it doesn't matter a whole lot, but this is a accurate description of your status.
Okay, I was just confused by what I thought was something that should not have been in that particular paragraph. Thank you. And I guess the other question then I do have is, does that mean that the village needs to hire an HR person, someone for human resources?
Well, at the present time, HR is handled by the clerk. It would be something that is worth looking at as a future addition, depending on how busy Melanie gets with other duties, because it can be busy. There's not a lot of employees of the village, so that cuts down on the time spent by
The
HR.
question I guess it comes to is there a conflict by having the clerk act as an HR employee?
No conflict because both positions are confidential positions. And somebody has to do it. If it's not the clerk, then it would be Ron. And it is better to have someone who has the time day to day to be handling the minutia of the HR director job.
Okay, thank you.
And I do, Mayor, have a proposed amendment that I just caught as I was reviewing the last draft, which we were changing last week. At the end of this same paragraph, Roman numeral 4B, the last paragraph is the last clause is a very unfortunate one at the present. It says, we talk about current directors will be classified and then their successors shall be, we meant
Fired.
to say, yeah, right now it says fired. It just meant, it should have said they will be unclassified employees. So the fired, that last clause needs to be amended to read, at which time their successor shall become an unclassified employee.
There's a misspelling there too, the word which.
That has to be fixed as well.
Yeah.
Would you like to make a motion to do that, Stuart?
I'm sorry. Yes, I move that we amend the last sentence in paragraph B under Article 4 as the attorney stipulated.
Gotcha. Anybody wants to make a second?
Second.
And a second? Any further discussion of it? How do you vote, Counselor Burkett?
Aye.
Counselor Knight?
Aye.
Counselor Woolman?
Aye.
Counselor Murray?
Yes.
Counselor Mira?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So are there any further comments or discussion on this ordinance? On the ordinance as previously moved and seconded, ordinance 24-10, implementing employee relations ordinance for the village of Corrales. How do you vote, Counselor Murray?
Yes.
Counselor Burkett?
Yes.
Counselor Knight?
Aye.
Counselor Woolman?
Aye.
Counselor Mira?
Yes, sir.
Okay, moving on. Number 3, consideration action approval of resolution 24-40, adopting a personnel policy for the village of Corrales. Need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Have a
Second.
motion and a second. Any discussion? Comments, corrections, changes, whatever?
I guess technically that motion to fix that portion in the, oh no, that's the ordinance. Never mind. Sorry, carry on.
Deal.
I was thinking we were amending the personnel policy.
No, we were overcorrecting. We got everybody's voice on it.
And I just had a little bit of editorializing to do. I want to thank Melanie and Sky, Ron, and folks in my office who took something that was from the 1990s and very archaic. And I think you're going to have a very good personnel policy.
Mayor.
Counselor Murray.
Thank you. There's just one error on the table of contents, section 400. It reads page 244. I think you meant page 24.
Oh, gosh, a typo. Gosh,
That's pretty keen on you.
that's very good.
There could be a page.
So were you out there with the group that was
Yes.
pulling weeds in the back soccer field?
Unfortunately, I'm still not through all the personnel manual. I mean, I've got about 50, 60 pages and now it's.
Any
I've
fur-
read through it 3 times, so
fur-
you're good.
Any further questions? Oh, yes, Administrator Curry.
I would just like to join with what Randy said about the effort. This was my hair hurts exercise where it went on for about a period of 2 years. And Randy was the first one to start yelling about his hair hurting in the process of doing this. But it's been a good learning experience for us. There's been a lot of lessons learned. And there has been a lot of people, including not to mention all the council members, but certainly most of the staff has commented on this so that we can, like we've moved our pay scales and our pay ranges into a different century, this comes along with it as well. So I think it's something that is needed, but it also helps make the employees who work here sustainable and something that we can point to that is up to date compared with other villages or municipalities in the state.
Mayor, this is Councilman.
Yes, sir, Council.
It does bring up the question about, I thought I read somewhere in there where the employees were using a village device, such as a cell phone, and retention of that data off that cell phone. Does that mean that they cannot delete anything off that cell phone? If there was a NIPR request?
Now, that's my understanding. Melanie, perhaps you should correct or make sure we're correct in that.
So that is covered under our records retention policy, under communications like letters. And I want to say it's a year or 2 years, that they're supposed to retain documents.
So all text messages, any emails, all that is supposed to be retained.
Anything that's involving official business. You know, there can be texts that are on an emergency site that end up being very significant because people actually communicate things of substance in situations like that. And just to remind everybody, any public business done on your city phone or your private phone, if someone, a village employee doesn't have a cell phone, but they call in some emergency, that is then a public record and subject to IPRA.
And so that also means social media, anything that the village has in terms of social media also has to be retained as well.
Under the
That is
same
correct.
policy.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Well, then let's have a vote. How do you vote, Councilor Miera?
Yes, sir.
Councilor Woolman,
Aye.
Councilor Knight,
Aye.
Councilor Burkett,
Aye.
Councilor Murray.
Yes.
Consideration action and approval of resolution 24-41 approving participation in Public Employees Retirement Association Municipal Police Member Coverage Plan 3. This was done as part of the recent budget. It's already funded, or it's planned to be funded, and it will start with it's already started, I guess you could say. Hasn't started until we pass this.
It has to be approved by the state para board. And so we believe it'll take effect sometime in August.
Okay. All right. I need a motion to approve and a second.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Councilor Woolman. Any discussion, any comments? Yes, sir.
So yeah, I'm just curious, and maybe the chief can address this. Have the employees been notified of these changes, or are they aware of them?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And they're happy with them, or
Absolutely.
100%?
This doesn't increase the employees' contribution, what the employees pay, just what the village pays. So the employees see no additional out of pocket from their paychecks.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
And that holds true for the fire department as well for the next resolution.
Okay. Anybody else? Excuse me. Councilor Murray, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilor Burkett,
Yes.
Councilor Knight,
Aye.
Councilor Woolman,
Yes.
Councilor Miera.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so consideration action approval of resolution 24-42 approving participation in Public Employees Retirement Association Municipal Fire Member Coverage Plan 3. Need a motion to approve in a second?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion? Yes, they were very pleased with this, especially that they didn't have to contribute more.
Well, I know, Mayor, I noticed that there is a difference in the withdrawal from the fire department and the police department. One, it looks like the fire department is having more taken out of their base pay.
I'm not sure how they decide how much is taken out. There's a format they follow. There you go. And I have nothing to do with that.
Okay.
That's state, right?
Yeah, they put out the contribution rates. This one started with fiscal year 22 and goes through fiscal year 26. And yes, there are differences between what police and fire pay.
And they retire with 100% pension after their
100.
service?
74.
Or
I don't know how much they get, but they do well.
well, let's hope
That's
so.
what
They
judges,
service
but
well.
they do well.
Okay.
I don't know how much, but they do well.
Deputy Chief
I
Latin
think they
says
do better
it's,
now than they did when Mr. McKinstry retired.
yeah, Deputy Chief Latin says between 60 and 67%.
Thank you.
Okay, how do you vote, Counselor Mira?
Yes, sir.
Counselor Woolman?
Aye.
Counselor Knight?
Aye.
Counselor Burkett?
Aye.
Counselor Murray?
Yes.
Consideration action approval of resolution 24-43, directing the publication of a notice of meeting and intent to consider adoption of ordinance 24-11 and ordinance authorizing the Village of Krause to amend ordinance 22-05 for the purpose of increasing the amount of the New Mexico Environment Department Clean Water State Revolving Fund project number CWSRF 124. This basically was for the PER. The company, the engineering company asked for more money and they were negotiated down, but not down to the $75,000 that we were given by the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. They negotiated them down to 82 or 83. I think I know it's in there. I think it's 83. And so we had to go through this 83,032. So we had to go through this in order to say, yes, we'll take that money. Any further questions? Oh, I need a motion to approve
So moved.
and a second.
Second.
So I have a motion to approve in a second. Any discussion? How do you vote, Counselor Woolman?
Aye.
Counselor Knight?
Aye.
Counselor Burkett?
Aye.
Counselor Mira?
Yes, sir.
Counselor Murray?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. We would like to get that done. That's for, it's for the sewer line, correct? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Clean Water State Revolving Fund, that's the sewer line. Discussion of possible changes to the village noise ordinance. You have a copy of the ordinance that we have put a few modifications on to see how you feel about it. We would like to, we're actually gonna, we're not going to vote on this. It's all discussion. So I guess we can start with the people in the audience. Let them speak. And that,
Okay, up first is Mr. Dan O'Brien. If you could state your name and address for the record, you will have 3 minutes.
I'm Dan O'Brien. This is my wife Molly, and we own Casa Vieja, and I don't know the address, 49. There you go.
Dan, can you pull a microphone? Go ahead, you can pull it loose. Yeah.
Okay.
So you can speak into it better.
This discussion, I'm certain has been prompted by our having music at Casa Vieja. And we've had about 2 persons that want to stop us from having music in Casa Vieja. The ordinance that you have says excessive noise, and there's 2 ways to interpret that. Is it excessive from a subjective point of view? Can one person shut down a business because that one person thinks the noise is excessive, or is it a reasonable person's standard? And we bought this place 2 years ago. Before that, I was playing as a musician there for several years. For several years, I played at the Bistro before they shut down. We haven't done anything different except that we are getting busier, and we're doing, we think, a good job. We have a great place. We have a old, middle-aged bunch of customers, some of them right here, and middle-aged to old age. We have an 86-year-old man that comes and does karaoke. Where can that guy go except our place? We have a nice, safe place for all the widows in Corrales, and there's many, I found out. They can come by themselves. We run a good place, and we're not insensitive to the loudness of the music. I first came to Corrales 50 years ago. Some of you are old enough to remember Hank and Louie Wickham, and they had a song called Corrales, and they were the hit of Corrales. They put Corrales on the map, and they wrote a song about Corrales, and it was about how music was part of Corrales. The first verse was in between Bernalillo and Paradise Hills on a crooked old road by the river, where guitar players screw in the local saloons and tourists play hell with their livers. And so even back then, music was a big deal in Corrales. And there's another verse that's pertinent here. We have weird little farmers who grow funny weeds as part of our natural resources for 1,000 people, 2,000 dogs, and 3,000 registered horses. This is 50 years ago. And that's about right, that we had 1,000 people, residents in this community. Now we got 10,000. And we still have about the same amount of bars. And so I'm sensitive to that. I used to play at the Tea House. The Hank and Louie played there. Frank Larrabee, you might remember him. He lived in a trailer down the road. We had lots of musicians. And all we're trying to do is continue that. And we're doing it responsibly. These guys, half of my friends here have the dB meter on their phone. We're sensitive to that. Over the winter, we built a bandstand that puts the band 10 feet from the folks. We don't have any interest in blasting those folks out. And our folks, again, are old. They don't want to hear loud music. Can you hear it next door? You can hear it, but it's not excessive.
Thank you. That's your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I believe, is Michael Walker. If you could state your name and address for the record, you will have 3 minutes.
So my name is Michael Walker. I live at 106 East Ella, which is just a couple of doors down from Henna and Nate's. And one of the reasons I moved here was the fact that we could walk to patio restaurants, patio breweries, patio coffee shops, etc. And the live music. We just love the fact that you could, have local artists, local food, local beers, etc. And just for some context, I live about 600 feet, roughly 600 feet from Casa Vieja. And I feed my animals every night from 8:15 to 8:30, which is when music is typically playing. And I would say maybe one night a week when the traffic conditions settle down and the dogs aren't barking, I can hear some music. I can't make out the words. I can barely hear the music. So to me, the volume level is perfect. So I know there's going to be some back and forth on, what volume is acceptable, what decibel level is acceptable. But as somebody who lives awfully close to Casa Vieja, to me, their level is perfect. So I think that should be the standard, maybe where you start with your studies. And I have no complaints. So that's it.
Thank you.
Next is Sabine Schurter. Sabine, if you could state your name and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Sabine Schurter. I live on 47 Rincon Road. Thank you very much for reminding us, Dan, how great Corrales used to be. As of today, the rock bands performing on the patio of Casa Vieja can be heard from Wagner's Lane to Priestley, on the Drainage Ditch Road, and all the way to the Bosque near La Entrada, according to the folks who live in these areas. Presently, this should be illegal. It is illegal. The amendment will make it legal for noisy venues in the commercial district only to inundate the interiors of Corrales homes and businesses in the vicinity, their gardens and patios, public roadways, recreational areas along the ditches and the Bosque, with amplified music for 13 to 14 hours each day of the week. How about a simple solution that could work for everybody and does not require any technology? Just move amplified music indoors. The neighborhoods and recreational areas will remain peaceful for residents and visitors. And the fans of rock and jazz music will be able to enjoy their favorite bands in Corrales. Restaurant and bar patios can continue to attract guests with mellow acoustic guitar performances, great beers and wines, delicious food. Wouldn't that really add to the beautiful ambiance of our quaint village? Instead of turning Corrales Road into something like Dirty 6th Street in Austin with competing bands every 100 yards.
Thank you.
Already done?
Thank you.
Sorry, that was the other.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, keep going. That was,
Ad.
My
I thought I'd shut the other.
There
one off. I
have been
apologize.
evenings when 3 bars had outdoor bands playing loud music at the same time, and things will only get worse along Corrales Road as more venues are going online. This amendment will ruin the Corrales experience for many villagers and visitors alike. Eagerness to please investors, business owners, quite a few of them do not even live here, and some of them really don't seem to care about their neighbors, can lead to bad decisions for your constituents and our village. Also, I would like to add that I have a registered home business, which is impacted by a noisy neighboring business. My concerns have been brushed aside, not addressed by law enforcement. And I must say, I'm very disappointed that this happened. Thank you.
Brad Schurter?
My name is Brad Schurter. I live at 47 Rincon Road, Corrales. Actually, unlike the owner of Casa Vieja, who doesn't even live in this village. I have a few items about technical items here. The attenuation of audio frequencies relative to distance from the point source and obstructions can be explained through a combination of principles, including the inverse square law, frequency-dependent absorption and diffraction, distance attenuation. According to the inverse square law, sound intensity decreases proportionally to the square of the distance from the source. Specifically for a point source, doubling the distance results in a 6 dB decrease in sound pressure level. I might add that I have a calibrated dB meter and a calibrator for that meter. A linear source like the highway, doubling the distance results in a 3 dB decrease. Now, frequency dependence. Higher frequency sounds attenuate more quickly than lower frequencies as they travel through the air. This is due to the higher frequencies being absorbed more by the medium air. In this case, the attenuation coefficient is proportional to the square of the frequency, meaning higher frequencies lose energy faster than low frequencies. Obstructions, barriers such as walls or buildings also affect sound attenuation. Lower frequencies tend to diffract around obstacles more easily due to their longer wavelengths, while higher frequencies are more likely to be reflected or absorbed by the obstacles. This results in low frequency sounds traveling further around obstructions compared to high frequency sounds. That's why we hear this thump, thump, thump of drums and bass at our house. Barriers such as walls or buildings can also affect attenuation. Lower frequencies tend to diffract around the obstacles more easily to the longer wavelengths, while higher frequencies are more likely to be reflected or absorbed by the obstacles. This results in, again, low frequency sounds traveling further around obstructions. These factors combined illustrate why low frequency sounds like a distant thunder or the rumble of a highway can be heard from farther away and through barriers, whereas higher frequencies are more significantly attenuated. For more details, technical insights, you can refer to sources. I've got sources.
Thank you. That's your time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And Joe, did you want to speak as well?
Joe Wellborn, 32 Priestley Place. It's on Priestley, and with all due respect, I don't hear any music from Casa Vieja. I don't. When we moved there 20 years ago, we knew we were in the commercial district, and that's what we love about where we live. There's the Harvest Festival, there's Heritage Days, there's soccer tournaments, there's the weekly growers market. There was just so much activity. We knew this when we moved there, and that's what we love about it. Everyone who's purchased a property in this area on this commercial strip knows that's what's there. And the business owners and property owners who have purchased these properties buy their properties because they want to make a living, and they made a deal, and they understand, I can build a business here. I can grow Corrales. I can do something that's great. We love the enriching activities, restaurants, food, music, we love it. They close at 9, am I correct? Okay, 10? Anyway, I understand, but it's the commercial district. We have to have a commercial district. It's both residential, and Corrales is becoming such a mecca for cultural activities, music, arts. Anyway, I support it. I understand the neighbors, but I live in the area. I live with all these things myself. These things going on all the time. I love it when I hear music at one of the festivals, but there's no ambient music on Priestley Place, and I hope you will support this wonderful business that enriches Corrales. Thank you.
Okay, that's it. Oh,
Sure, come on up.
can you state your name and address for the record, please?
Hi, my name's Gray Howell, 344 Manere Road. And I wanted to add a little bit of a different aspect to Mr. O'Brien. I was one of the musicians in the Clear Ditch Ramblers 50 years ago, and I knew Hank and Louis Wickham very well, and Frank Larrabee very well. The difference was back then, we all played in the tea house, inside or out on the patio, and we couldn't hear the music all the way down to the ditch. Now, Mr. O'Brien has a very good band. It's been around for a long time. But the noise, there's a big difference from what 50 years ago, what was going on then, and what's going on now with the decimal levels. I've heard it all the way down at the ditch. Thank you very much.
I believe that's everyone.
So I'll make a comment. I live at 4828 Corrales Road. That's next door to the bistro, across the street from Ex Novo, and somewhat down the street from Casa Vieja. I don't have a problem at all. I had a problem about 16 years ago because Fritz got some guy next door playing who did a horrible Fogerty. And I called Fritz up. I said, get that guy off the bandstand. Anyway, that's just an editorial comment because I don't really get to do much other than direct these guys. Yes, Counselor.
I just wanted to say that the last time Sabine came up and spoke, I called the next day to Melanie and asked about if the comprehensive plan was looking at this, and she said they were. So that's one thing I think we need to wait and get some information from the comprehensive plan. But also, because she said she lived on Recon Road, I thought, okay, the next couple times I'm out, I'm going to go down Recon Road when music is playing and see if I can hear anything. And I went 3 different times. You know, one of the days was a Thursday, one was a Sunday, one was a Friday. And twice during those times, I didn't hear any music at all. And I think it was a Saturday night. I heard drumming, but that was about it. So again, you know, I didn't hear any, the other 2 times I went by her home, I didn't hear any music at all. So again, you know, we were all young once and wanted to hear music, and we still do. And I don't think on a Saturday night at 10 o'clock or at 8 o'clock, if music is playing, it's a detriment to the village. Just an opinion.
Anybody else? Councilor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. So I am not in favor of item number 10, the new addition to the noise ordinance. Mainly because it's an open carte blanche license for anybody to come in and violate our noise ordinances. Basically, you're saying that you're not putting any limits as to what the noise will be during these hours. And consequently, I've mentioned this before, that I've dealt with the salt yard issue over in Albuquerque, and I live over a mile from them, and we still hear them at 12:30 or 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, but this is going to be,
Mayor, let me finish.
oh, I'm sorry.
I
Excuse
mean, I understand.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
But the issue is, and I think that Mr. Schurter is right, low frequency noise is very subjective. One, it bounces all over the place. And if you got a narrow space, say between you point A and point B, that sound is going to reverberate, and it also could add to the noise level in which you're living. I'm not in favor of number 10 because one, I don't want to see a open ordinance where loudness is not an issue, because we also have I think a potential venue coming in where the old Sears house is going in. That is going to be, it's going to be loud because people, when they party at weddings, it gets loud, and there's going to be loud music. And I guarantee you, I went and attended my nephew's wedding about a year ago, and I couldn't have a normal conversation with my wife, who was right next to me. It was so daggum loud. So we need to put limits on some of this stuff that goes on. Now, if he wants to have amplified music, I think it's correct, move it inside. But the other part is Mr. O'Brien is violating our ordinances as a now state, because we do not allow amplified music according to our ordinance. And having it outside is a violation of our ordinances. Now, as a compromise, either he builds walls or he puts vegetation in place, and we take a look at this and maybe we come up with a compromise. But number 10, no, it's off the books for me. I don't think that we ought to allow it at all.
Well, the primary focus of this was to establish a time. Do you feel comfortable with saying shut down music at 9 o'clock? Shut down music at 9 o'clock from Sunday to Thursday, or shut down music over the weekend at 10? Because the police officers are having a difficult time in dealing with something that's not black and white. And we had a discussion about this, Chief Mangiapane and I, and this was the simplest approach. Now, we don't want to tell musicians not to use amplified music, because in some cases they need it in order for people to hear what they're playing. But what we would like is for you to kind of, percolate this and come up with what you might consider some reasonable amendments or modifications that we can discuss further before we change anything. Councilor Woolman.
Yeah, just a couple questions, and maybe Randy could help us here. There seems to be no definition of what constitutes excessive or unusually loud noise. There's no decibel readings. Again, who determines that the noise is disturbing? If someone is not a fan of music and has a home office and they work in the evenings, are we to then tell them, I'm sorry, you're going to have to work early in the morning or mid-afternoon because we're going to play music and that may disturb you, but that's too bad. There's no objective standards here. Now, we know that Rio Rancho has just passed a new noise ordinance as of last week. There are decibel readings. It's defined, it's outlined. They worked on it for several years. Any assistance you can provide?
Well, I worked for a long time in City of Albuquerque Legal Department, where they had decibel readings through the Environmental Health Department for loud music sources or any loud noise source. It's a very inexact science. Where it's measured, as the gentleman just stated, sound is a very difficult thing because it does bounce, it does travel in different ways. So decibel readings are hard. And the other thing that is difficult is the only thing that really guarantees no noise is a bigger lot. If you live in the middle of 10 acres, you can control how much noise you have. If you live in a populated area, it is by its nature, there's lawns being mowed. I had a case out in the East Mountains where a woman ran a donkey rescue, and there were 21 donkeys on a half-acre lot, and that was noise. So when you're in a community, it's hard. Blowing your grass with a gas blower, all very difficult things, all things that are accepted in close proximity to each other. So all of those types of noises can be regulated, but it's really hard to do it in a way that is fair and is easy to enforce. What we have in place now is law enforcement officers. They can't read decibel meters. It takes a person with a science training and a certification that a court will accept. So it's doable, but it would be a very large undertaking.
Who determines if it's disturbing?
The judge. If there's something, if a police officer comes up to a residence and based upon a complaint, and then the police officer would use their own judgment to determine whether this is excessive or not, then the judge would have to rely upon that. For example, a Harley Davidson being cranked up at full throttle without a muffler on, that disturbs me quite frequently. Personal, but some people, it's music to their ears, right? So in other words, it's up to the officer. And that's why it's hard to enforce, because then they go before the judge and the judge goes, how do I decide this?
Yeah. Mayor, can I ask Mr. O'Brien a question? I'm curious about the amplifiers. Are they facing Corrales Road or are they facing your establishment?
Would you come up to the mic, please?
Since last year when I got cited, and I'm on probation now, we moved the speakers in. They point kind of to the center of the wall that's directly across. And we purposely do that because the person that complains all the time is over to the north there.
Across Corrales Road.
Yeah. Across, Racone Road there.
Yep.
So we point them away from there.
So they're pointed toward your building, toward your business.
No, okay, so if you've been there, there's a big long portal. And then we built a bandstand right in front of it. And that faces directly to Corrales Road. And my band only uses one little column of a small PA that's right in front of it. And it's perpendicular straight ahead toward just what's across the street. I don't know, but we purposely turn them away from Racone because that's where we get all the complaints.
Yeah, but the problem with where you are is, although it's designated a commercial zone, there are homes spread throughout that commercial zone. So it's not it's not like a downtown Albuquerque where you have strictly a commercial zone, office buildings, et cetera. You have houses that are interspersed there.
Right.
Would it be possible to have I don't know about the wiring set up, but the band plays on the bandstand, but the speakers are closer to Corrales Road facing your audience? So in other words, they're not facing across the street, either Racone or the other direction. But your audience would have the benefit of your non-acoustic music.
Kind of impractical probably because the band's here and then the sound's there. And it would be hard to get a balance. Having been a band guy all my life, that would be.
I'm just looking for some compromise.
Well, I understand. I understand. Yeah, I think that the key is to keep it down, and we do that. Now we're not always perfect. We've had bands that would not turn down, and they don't come back. And we have people measuring the decibels, and we go to that corner over there of our place, it's closest to Racone, and the readings are like 65 or 70. I mean, that's not loud. And then a car goes by, and our decibel meters go up to 90. Or a motorcycle goes by and it's 100.
I believe the new standards in Rio Rancho are 55 and 60.
I saw that. That is.
That's talking.
We had 200 people. Excuse me. We had 200 people at Casa Vieja Saturday night. Just the people talking is probably 65 or something like that. And so, that I see that ordinance.
Well, we're glad you're doing so well. I mean, that's terrific for you.
Well, and we try hard, and we want to be a good citizen, and we feel we are.
Councilor Burkett.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So 3, maybe 4 points. One, I think we need to make sure we're not trying to solve a specific problem, but we're looking at a policy that's for all the businesses. I don't think we can legislate which direction people's speakers are pointing, because that wouldn't apply in all spaces. the second thing on most of these ordinances, and I looked at Albuquerque's as well, and they are measuring decibels, but they're measuring at the recipient's location, not at the starting location. So there's going to be massively different numbers depending on who makes the phone call. And to comment on what somebody said earlier, all of these are in the commercial zone, and even more specifically, they're all in businesses that have played music before. No new business has popped up to surprise people where they had a house where there wasn't a bar or music previously, and then all of a sudden this nightclub shows up. These are places that have historically served this purpose. And then finally, I'd like to ask the police chief how many other complaints he's getting from other people, and how far he's hearing these complaints as far as distance from any of the facilities within the village.
Councilor Kett, Mayor and Council, none that I'm aware of. And there was a comment made earlier that law enforcement's ignored the complaints, and Mr. O'Brien conceded earlier that he's on double secret probation. So obviously this was brought to court, and like our legal counsel advised, it's up to the court's interpretation of what constitutes excessive. We have a very vague noise ordinance right now, which basically says if it's annoying, it violates the ordinance. So it is under judicial review. The officers, when they respond, most of us are from somewhere else. We went to the academy somewhere else, worked for another agency, and we get here and we get a noise complaint for the first time or two, and we tell the people, well, it's not 10 o'clock yet, so we'll cruise back by at 10. If it's still going on, we'll ask them to turn it down. And we've had citizens clarify, no, your ordinance doesn't say 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock on weekdays. It says if it annoys me, it's illegal, right? And so the officers are then compelled to do something, and 99% of the time we try and get voluntary compliance, right? I mean, where we don't approach every complaint with our citation book in our hands. We're trying to solve the problems, not trying to write tickets. So, we've gotten voluntary compliance, but after, I don't know how many calls the detective might be able to clarify, but probably a half a dozen calls when we're starting to drain resources here, and getting the repeated complaints, we issued the citation, and now we're going to let the court deal with it.
Okay. So, but just so you're not getting a lot of people that are reaching out complaining about music specifically?
I'm only aware, Councilor Burkett, of the complaints originating from the Schroeder residents.
Okay.
I'm not saying absolutely 100% that there aren't others, but I am not aware of it.
All right. I appreciate it.
Councilor Muir.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I'm going to talk in a little bit personal like yourself, a little editorial here, but first of all, I just
be sure you're closer to your microphone.
I just want to start by getting some notes that I took down here. Mr. Bryant, I think you start with, said you want to stop, we want you to stop you. And I don't think we do. I don't want to stop anybody, but we do want to be fair with individuals who have concerns, and you have your concerns as well. But I just wanted, you started out the word stop, and I put that down right away. And I don't think we want to stop it, but we do want to change something that we have right now going on. And the editorial part, Mayor, is, and council members, the situation down on Rincon, I actually went by your place and was outside for a little while. And then I went down the street, went down in Rincon and listened to you from the Rincon area. So I took the time to do that. And the reason I did that, Mr. Mayor and members, and I think I may have said this once before, but we'll talk about it again. It's worth it. When I was the legislator down on where we had the environmental health that I think you were talking about, and you probably were involved in this particular one. A lot of concerns about a lot of loud noise with the way the band was playing right there at the Aquatic Center down on Central Avenue. And so the neighbors, my constituents down the way, way down the way, were saying it was just too loud. And so we went over there and put up some decibel readings, and they had X decibel readings, and we went down the road. And doggone it, wasn't X plus maybe 1 or something or other, but it was still down the road. People couldn't figure that one out. We brought the University of Mexico down. You remember that one. And oddly enough, and I had nothing to do with Mr. Brad or Brad here when he was talking. It just so happens that there's some similarities right there. As you went down the ditch, it amplified. For some reason, it amplified as it went down the ditch a little bit and got a little bit louder there more than anything else. So what we really landed up doing in the end was telling them just to bring their decibels down, because you could have it right in the front and be a little bit louder someplace else, somewhere else. And we're talking on Central Avenue here. So I think what we're talking about here is the ability to be able to have some people have you have the music, and other people will be able to have, you know, their sanity for for lack of a better word, for what's going on and the loudness of it. So it doesn't have to be loud. I understanding, and I've talked with the chief. We don't have, you have decibels that you talked about. I don't think we have a decibel reading ourselves, do we?
No.
And I think if we put something in like Rio Rancho did, decibels, we're gonna put ourselves behind an 8 ball because we don't have decibel readings and you guys don't have the decibel readings to go along with that. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
I keep in very close touch with my predecessors, Chief Vihil and Chief Tartar, both retired, and I had a discussion with them last week about this particular issue. And Chief Tartar told me in the 90s, they tried it. They implemented the decibel readings and, you know, they got meters and they try to train the officers in them, but you know, we have a lot of other equipment to keep track of. That's the last thing I want to get involved in. But the bottom line is that Chief Tartar said that they'd go out and take decibel readings and the passing cars were always registering louder than the amplified music that they were investigating. And then the 1 or 2 times where they actually did come to court with a case that they got thrown out because of our lack of qualifications, expertise to operate that equipment and the questioning of the accuracy of the equipment itself. So that's certainly not the silver bullet that we're looking for. And I don't know what is.
Councilor Murray.
I think, well, I wasn't finished, but go ahead.
Yes.
No,
come back.
Go ahead.
No.
Go ahead. Ken. He said, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So the way the ordinance is written right now, and I'm not talking about anything about DBs or that kind of stuff. It says section 1427, paragraph number 2, the use of an operation of any radio, television, phonograph, sound amplifying equipment, and any sound producing machine in such a manner as to disturb the peace and quiet of the persons in any office, dwelling, hotel, or residence, or any person in this vicinity. It's prohibited. It doesn't require any meters. It just says it's not allowed. And we're not enforcing that. And unfortunately, well, I mean, Mr. Audio, I mean, you can address that if you want, but it's the way its ordinance is written.
It is related to whether or not it is excessive. And the way the ordinance is written, it's very subjective. It isn't black and white. It doesn't disallow amplified music. It disallows amplified music that's disturbing someone. And then it's left to, in this situation, there's one person that has made a complaint. So we're in just a very gray area, and that's why we're here to try to ferret out how to more fairly take care of her rights and the rights of the business owner.
It may be subjective, but that's the way the ordinance is written, and that's what's currently on the books.
And that's why we're
the judge
trying to
doesn't want to
modify.
act on it.
And on
Councilor
that point, and that's where I was going, is that we have the subjective, but we have the decibel readings and so forth. We can put that in there. I think we'll just find ourselves going backwards and forwards on that one because, you know, the decibel readings that I've learned and I'm sure, like I said, you may remember during the environmental health days, they were all over the place. And, you know, sometimes it depends on how much, the kind of music, you said the drums on one side and maybe it was the, you know, higher pitch on the other side. But I think the bottom line is we just wanted to tone it down and not stop the music, just, you know, cool it down a little bit. And I think that's where we're trying to find, we're going to have subjective one way or another, but we also are going to have an opportunity to say, you know what, you're loud, you got to bring it down. You can't say, well, the rules doesn't say that. So we're going to have to be careful about how we put those rules so that they says something that talks about that one. And I think that's where I kind of wanted to leave it. We need to do something about it. To just leave it alone right now, we're just going to find ourselves back in here with people speaking every once in a while, how really upset they are about the whole situation.
Councilor Knight.
To look at the dBs of sound, it's so hard to do. I mean, at least if we did time, at least if we did a time restriction, that's measurable. You know, you have to get done at 9:30 and that's it. You know, no more music after 9:30. And if somebody on a Saturday night is at home working at 9:30 on a project for work, well, you know what? Sometimes you just have to ignore. I mean, you know, I used to have kids at school that said, well, he's bugging me. It's like, ignore him. You know, I mean, there's ambient white noise that goes on all the time. We all ignore it. So I just think we'd be better off if we had a time restriction rather than a dB restriction.
Yeah,
Councilor Murray?
well, I'll go back to the salt yard. They had a time restriction. It was 2 AM. And consequently, we could still hear them. I mean, up to the 2 AM. And there's people that are a lot closer than I was, and they go to work much earlier and they complain. And unfortunately, the way the rules were written in Albuquerque, you had to have somebody from the Department of, ED come out and measure it. And unfortunately, it was always after hours. And consequently, it's sound. She's right, and the DBs are subjective. I'm not going to argue with that, but the thing is sound carries. And it can be one man's person is, it's another annoyance for somebody else.
Yes, sir, Counselor.
I think saying that music is going on until 2 a.m. here is ridiculous. We never have music going on here at 2 a.m. So let's not even talk about that. We're talking about things that happen in Corrales. So if it's 9 or 9:30, I think that's reasonable. People are up on a Saturday night probably until that time. On the weeknights, yeah, if it was on Monday night at 9:30 and you have to get up for work in the next morning, that would be, no, not okay. But on a Saturday or Friday night, when people usually go out to dinner, they want to relax. Why is 9 or 9:30? I think that's a better way to quantitatively say that's it rather than the DBs. That's and 2 o'clock.
Councilor Burkett.
I wasn't thinking
Did you
about
want
TVs.
Yeah. Two quick things. Currently, honking your horn and yelling are also prohibited in the village. And so if we took someone to court every time that happened, we would need a much larger court budget. But my question is, what are the suggestions? If we're not willing to, if we all say decibel meters are not a good option, if some of us don't think that a time limitation is a good option, we can't be reasonable as what our rule is. So what do you guys think is a better option to put in this policy other than a time restriction?
Councilor Mira?
On that point, yeah, I'm not for the DBs. I think that I explained exactly why, because they do change. And so, I'm not for that, and mostly because, like the chief said, he's not in a position to do that. But on the other hand, just because you have a 9:30 doesn't mean it can have unlimited noise until 9:30, and at 9:30 you can cut it off. I think it has to be, subject to the place where it's at. Right there, Mr. O'Brien's places should be right in that particular area, should not extend much further than that, because, you're really not playing for everybody else along the road, you're playing for yourself. So the difference is, time is not the answer.
What's the other answer? What do we?
So I think we've been doing this a long time. So I think it's time to move on, but let me make a comment. There's nothing wrong with calling the owner of the facility and saying, hey, this music is really crappy. Can you tone it down? Or can you take him off the bandstand? There's no reason that you can't talk with people. The reason we have suggested the time is because our police officers are getting called every time somebody is unhappy. Now, that may still happen, but at least they know that if it's after 9 o'clock, they'll cite them. If it's after 10 o'clock on a weekend, they'll cite them. They have something to hang their hat on. It's not like, oh, does this sound loud? We're trying to give them something so they don't waste a lot of time. Okay. So if they get a call and it's 8 o'clock at night and somebody's complaining the music, they'll get around to looking at it, to driving by and listening, but they may not run right over because it's 8 o'clock and they still have at least an hour or 2 hours, depending upon the time of the week. That was our goal. Chief, did I say that correctly? Chief Manji-Capra, is he still here?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Like I said, there's no silver bullet, but the time restrictions would make our jobs a little easier and make the ordinance a little easier to enforce. So just something to take into consideration. Thank you.
Okay. Any more comments from the council? I said, any more comments from the council? Councilor Murray.
The only thing is, I think if there is going to be a compromise, then the sound cannot leave the property.
Well, then you need to write that up and suggest that as an amendment when this comes back before the council.
Communities, but
and good luck on that.
I know, but at least you would have something then,
Sure. No, I think you can do that. You can write whatever you want. I mean, are we done? All right, well, that finishes the business session. We call this meeting is now adjourned.
Future items?
Oh, gosh. Okay, future agenda items. Future agenda items. We're going to have an appeal hearing for the lot size variance 24-03 716 at 6 p.m.
Excuse me, if the audience could please hold their comments for just a minute. We have a few more things to go over.
If you guys want to talk, going outside, because we're pretty much through with the business meeting. Approval of Main Street Arts and Cultural District Plan on 723. That's something you should think about. When the reason it's set up for that is because this has been in the works for a long time. And the State Main Street is going to have a meeting, what, August?
August 15th.
August 15th.
Yeah, it has to go to the
So if
Arts
we
and Cultural
missed that
Board.
meeting for this, then it's delayed another, because it's once a quarter, right? So it'd
Yeah.
be 3 months. Okay. So it's not something we have to do. It's just something that's put on the schedule. Clean and lean resolution for 4605 Corrales Road, 723, a resolution to adopt a village motto on 723. The Bureau of Reclamation River Mile 199 project, which was part of that windrow of rocks that we saw last summer, I think it was. And we need a resolution for capital outlay extension for the $50,000 we received for an MBR. We're going to do a feasibility. We're going to try to do some type of a feasibility study. Not really a PER, but to see if it's worthwhile to get a plan to take step water, treat it, put it in a water tank and use it for irrigation purposes, use it perhaps even for fire suppression. But try to recycle wastewater here in the village, keep it. It would have, if we have the money and we can get the money to do that, then, and there's a lot of push to reuse water. We think it would save us money down the long haul and would be a good thing for the village.
On that point, are you kind of like putting it in that tank like the one we have on Loma Larga, or maybe like the one on the other side of the north?
I think we might have to look at another tank
Okay.
because this water won't be potable.
Yeah.
And everything that we're going to have in that system could be potable, is potable water, could be part of a water system if we have an emergency.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, I'd like to, at some point, explore the possibility of lowering the speed limit on Corrales Road.
Won't happen.
I think if we were to stress to the state that it is a safety issue.
We tried this back in 2006 or 7. We met with NMDOT. Now, it may have changed in the last 18 years.
I'm just thinking with the emphasis, as Councilor Murray has pointed out several times, emphasis for Mr. Cog on safety.
That's Mr. Cog. That's not DOT.
That is correct. But with their research, I think it may be worth exploring for 2 reasons. One, from a safety perspective, I was at that meeting, which was a public meeting. Councilor Miera and I were at the meeting, the Main Street meeting yesterday. I think if Rio Grande Boulevard, the length of it can be 25 miles an hour, I think we can explore, say, from Wagner's to Meadowlark, reducing to 25 miles an hour for safety concerns. Secondly, one of the main concerns we keep hearing over and over again, whether it's the comprehensive plan or wherever it is, about the amount of traffic coming through the village. I think if we were to lower the speed limit, we might discourage some of those people from Rio Rancho coming through. I think it's worth looking.
Well, it's worth asking. The only problem is the way they determine the speed limit is they put up monitors and they base it on the, 85%. And if people are driving 40, I mean, the school buses sometimes go, I think, 45 miles an hour. So yeah, we can ask.
No, I mean,
we can ask, but the downside is they may raise the speed limit. That's the concern we had. And we can't do the same thing that Rio Grande Boulevard does because Los Ranchos controls Rio Grande Boulevard and we don't control Corrales Road. So we can't just arbitrarily change the speed limit.
I understand. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Well, Mayor, also in in addition to what Counselor Wolman is saying, I think that Mr. Cog and the transportation system and including the National Transportation Board, they're getting away from the 85% marker. And so I think they're going to take into addition the conditions of the road and the safety of the road before they'll do the 85%. Like I say, doesn't hurt to ask. Also, can we just have for discussion the Arts and Cultural District Plan for next meeting and then vote on the 13th of August? I just think it'd still give us time, wouldn't it?
No. When's the meeting in August? Do you remember?
I believe they said August 15th.
Yeah, well,
But-
we have a meeting the 13th.
Yeah, but
Well, you know, that
you want to say it now? Okay. I mean, they're going to need more than a couple of days.
Yeah, they need time to take into consideration any, because they're going to take the council's input that comes and any village input at that meeting and incorporate it into the plan. So if we do it on the
Well-
13th, it wouldn't give them enough time to rewrite the plan to present it on the
Here's my
15th.
problem.
Respond to what you said. Yes, we can do that.
It's 86 pages and 4 or 5 days is not enough time to solve 86 pages plus whatever else is on the agenda.
I specifically asked the question, if we were in a time crunch, and we're not. The only thing is it will be delayed and there will be people who are probably not happy about that. But yes, we can discuss it on what day did you want to do it? August?
July 23rd.
July
take it
23rd?
off the 23rd and make it the next meeting.
No, we
Put
can
on-
probably leave it on 23rd.
Yeah, their consultant is already scheduled to do a presentation for us
Yeah,
on the
we need to leave it where
23rd.
it is and we can talk about it,
We don't have to vote on it.
but we don't have to approve it.
Right.
Exactly.
Mayor, the other concern is that there has not been a lot of public input from the general public. They've met with an awful lot of groups. They had the thing at Village Pizza a couple of weeks ago, which really wasn't an open forum. It
Oh, no, it
was
sucked.
Really filling out, forms.
I didn't say that, did I?
I can go in and redact that.
Okay, redact that. No, I agree. It was it was chaotic.
Yeah, and there were about 10 or 12 people at the meeting yesterday. I don't know how it was advertised. I happen to remember that it was the 8th. I asked Melanie, is it still on? And so Councilor Meir and I, were there, but public really has not had a lot of input. It's different than the comprehensive plan. It's different than the Corrales Community Center, but it is something which is going to impact the village. And I think we should have more of an open forum, perhaps on the 23rd, as we did for the noise ordinance tonight, or they can set up, or Main Street can set up a separate public meeting.
So they're going to, the Arts and Cultural District Committee is going to make a presentation here on the 23rd of
23rd.
July.
Right.
We can ask questions and we can discuss it. If we need another meeting, we can certainly put it off to we can do another meeting.
And I asked, I forget her name, Michelle, I think, how often does the state advisory committee meet? And she said it's quarterly,
Once a quarter.
or more often if necessary.
Well,
I also asked her if they've ever turned down anything that was recommended by New Mexico Main Street, and she said, no. So I don't think we're in a position where, we have to get this absolutely correct first time out, but I think the public should have input where we can.
okay.
And Mr. Mayor, I feel the same way. The part for me is that it goes out on the 18th. I said, can you get it out before then? And there was like, no, we can't get it out before that. So that's on the 18th and then the 23rd. And it's 50 some pages
Sure.
over the week.
Okay. No, we can do that. Yeah.
Ready.
Anybody else? Stuart, did you have your hand up?
I already said.
Got to be a first. Okay, then we're done. I'm gonna do one more time. We're adjourned.
Find a
I
plan.
did more than that, actually.